Hi friends, my name is Emily and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a reading vlog for Alanna, the First Adventure by Tamora Pierce. So this is part of a little reread project. I'm going to reread the Song of the Lioness series and vlog and just do whatever feels right with each of the books. My mom gifted this to me when I was maybe between 9 and 11 at least, and I fell in love with Tamora Pierce. For each color, a post-it note. So the orange is 2020, the pink is January 2021, I believe. I'm going to read it again now in May of 2021 for this project. I'll give you a brief synopsis. Alanna is one of a set of twins who look fairly similar. Tom wants to go to the university and be trained in magic. Alanna wants to go to the palace and become a knight, but women aren't allowed to do that. Neither of them wants to go where they are supposed to go. Alanna decides that they should switch places, but Alanna cannot study for knighthood as a girl, and so she decides to disguise her gender. I'm excited to reread this, and I will take you along this journey with me. A few observations, I guess. So Tom and Alanna are both really pissed that their father is forcing them into these socially sanctioned roles. Elder sons don't have options. Like, it sounds like the eldest noble son is expected to be sent to the palace and to train and provide service to the realm. Younger sons may follow in knighthood or can learn magic or can study religion. Tom doesn't really have a choice, being the eldest and only son, technically. And Alanna definitely has no choice. As a noblewoman, she is expected to fulfill those duties. So like, they're upset that their father is like sending them to do the socially sanctioned roles, and like they're mad at him, like, oh, he doesn't care about us. But like, it's a bigger thing. Society doesn't have options for them. The other thing is that Prince Jonathan is so commanding. He's like 12 or 13. As a very young person, he is very clear that he wants people to respect his royal privilege. When Rowland is beating up Alan, John asks, "What is this?" The young male voice was clear and forceful, and it causes Rowland to freeze. And then the boy who seemed to be running things looked around. "Douglas," he nodded to a boy who had been there all along. "What happened?" And then, because he is again pulling rank, feels entitled to discipline his subjects, even though he's just a prince and not a king, he tells Rowland that he'll speak with him later, in my room before lights out. When Rowland hesitated, John added in a soft, icy voice, "You've been dismissed, Malvin." I think it's interesting to see how Jonathan behaves in contrast to his son, who we'll see in the later books. John may be in training to be a knight, but he definitely has this sense of entitlement. Like, he is not one of them. Also, I think we just have to give like a round of applause to Coram for adjusting so quickly to Alan's new pronouns and new name. Coram is supposed to be this stodgy, conservative sort of man, right? Like, he doesn't like magic, he's really not into this plan, but once he gets on board, he like very quickly corrects himself when he's about to call Alan Lass instead of Lad. That like immediate switch to respect how Alan is identifying, how Alan is performing his gender is quite progressive, I think, for, I don't know, 1983 when this was published. Like, it's life or death, really, that Coram not out Alan. And I think pronouns are going to be messy throughout this. I'm paying extra special attention, I guess, to the pronouns and like the switching of names this time. And that was something that I just thought deserved to be called out, how quickly Coram gets on board. Okay, so you kind of have to laugh at the moment when Alanna decides that she wants to quit after 2 days of having to work hard and not instantly being taught how to use a sword and have to do math and history and poetry and to learn literacy. She's like, "That's it, I quit." This is too hard and I can't do it the way I want. They're not teaching me what I want. I'm following their course. How dare they? I'm leaving. She talks about how she has to learn how to use a bow all over again. Quote, when I was the best hunter at Trebond, end quote. And I just think that highlights how naive she is. She's 11. If she's 11 and she really is the best hunter at Trebond, they are one of the first lines of defense against Scanrans, I believe, are on the border. And the Scanrans are always invading Tortal. If an 11-year-old child is actually the best hunter in Tortal, they're pretty fucked. And I love that she feels like as a noble, she has this sense of entitlement. Like, well, obviously I already know everything. Just give me the fucking shield. It's beautiful. It's such a childish moment that you just sort of have to revel in, that she truly believes that she's all that. Okay, now that I've noticed how often Jonathan pulls rank, I'm annoyed. It was one of those things that I'd never really noticed before. It was just part of Jonathan's character. This is after Alan has been beaten up by Rallan of Malvin, and she's ashamed and she's hurt and she's sad. Her manservant Coram tells the boys in passing, oh, Alan won't be at dinner, he's sick, and the boys all come to check on him, and she says, no, go away, leave me alone, I'm sick. Because they can't do anything because they're equals, they have to step away. But then Prince Jonathan is like, Alan, open the door. This was the prince and he was giving an order, and so she has to obey. But like, could you imagine, in this case, she has been beaten up. I mean, this is probably worse than actually being sick. If you tell them to go away because you're like dry heaving over a bucket and you're just like dying and you feel like shit and you're like, please just like go away. You don't need to see this. I don't need your help. I don't want anyone near me right now. And the prince is like, no, you must open the door. Like, such a twat. And now that I've noticed it, I'm annoyed by it. So I have made it to page 168, chapter 6, Womanhood. So at this point, Alanna is in her second year of pagehood. She has beat Rallan of Malvin, sort of established herself within the group of boys, like sort of mentally dealt with the imposter syndrome that she's always wrestling with. And we have met the very creepy Duke Roger. Do I have anything that stands out from this part? Oh, yes. The boundaries between older men and Alan are very blurry. Alan refers to Sir Miles, his history teacher, as his friend, and he also refers to George, the King of Thieves, as his friend. Both are like fully adult men and seem to sort of fulfill the role of father a lot more than friend. So when Alan is feeling really guilty about using fancy tricks to beat up Rallan of Malvin, it's Miles who has this little heart-to-heart with her. When Alan needs a horse because he's still riding this dumb pony, and his biological father will never like cough up the money for a horse for his son. He just will let Alan like rent a horse with like whatever is left over, the terrible horses that are left over at the palace. George basically subsidizes a horse for Alanna, right? Or for Alan. If Alan weren't so proud, he would have gifted her this very expensive animal and all of the tack outright, and takes that loss because he wants to do this for this child that he's become invested in. And I just think it's a little bit weird. If it were any other book, I feel like this sort of close friendship that is cultivated between, and like labeling it friendship opposed to mentorship in many other circumstances, would be leading up to something gross and abusive. But I mean, this is also Tamora Pierce and it's like a warm hug, so that's not where this is going at all. But I'm noticing how often the older men, the adult men in Alan's life are referred to as his friends opposed to mentors or father figures. Okay, so we've just got to Alanna having her period for the first time. Alanna, sorry. I have always pronounced it Alanna. Also, her name, she's going by Alan. Alanna, not Alan. Unless people are calling him Alanna. Anyways, the point that I wanted to make was, so we're in the womanhood chapter, and she wakes up and she's like, oh shit, I'm bleeding from a secret place, can't confide in any of the men at the palace, I have to find a healing woman because I'm dying. So this is only like 2 years ago. She was 10. Maud was in on this plan. Maud helped her, like, cut her hair and dress her as a boy. Maud helped with this. You think Maud would have also have been like, okay, because you are biologically female, we assume that this is going to happen to you. Let's strategize. This is what you're going to want to do. You're not dying. Like, this is how you deal with this, right? And instead, Alanna starts menstruating and thinks that she's dying and needs to see a healing woman because she's dying. Does it even make for a good plot point? I guess it makes Alanna vulnerable to open up and tell somebody her secret and like trust another human with that. It shows that she's made a good enough friendship in George Cooper to do that. But at the same time, it also feels like something that didn't need to happen, because if you have this harebrained scheme and like one of the things that even her 10-year-old twin brother brought up was like, well, what about when you start getting breasts and turning into a girl? You would think that Maud, who is an adult woman, who has experienced being an adult woman, would have also had those thoughts and have prepared Alanna for it better. I just feel like it makes me sad that she wasn't better prepared for it. All right, so let's talk about the language that Mrs. Cooper uses in this scene where she's talking about menstruation. And it's very much, I think, a product of 1983 when this was published. The language here leaves no room for trans folks. Not all women menstruate, but Mrs. Cooper calls it a woman's monthly cycle. We could have, just with a tweak of a few things, like the fertility cycle, just the monthly cycle, your monthly cycle. And then on the next page, Alanna's like, well, I want to change it. I won't put up with this. Mrs. Cooper says, quote, you're a female child. No matter what clothing you wear, you must become accustomed to that. And Alanna demands, why? I have the gift, I'll change it. Mrs. Cooper goes, nonsense. You cannot use your gift to change what the gods have willed for you, and it would be foolish to try. But why not? Like 1 page later, Mrs. Cooper gives Alanna magical birth control. It's a necklace that is a magical equivalent to hormonal birth control. Why not magical HRT? Right? Like, here we have Mrs. Cooper saying that sex and gender are the same thing and they are unchangeable, and that is not true. This is the one part of the book on the last 2 times that I have read this that I have struggled with the most, because I think this would be so upsetting and unfortunate if you gifted this to a trans or non-binary child, and then you have baked into this text, which in other ways is very subversive. Alanna is assigned female at birth, but living and performing man, has been socially accepted, is passing, is existing in this man space. In many ways, it's very subversive. And then you have this that's like, nope, biology and gender are the same. Like, you can pretend, but it's nonsense, according to Miss Cooper. And it's something that I haven't noticed on many of the other readings. It's just been in the past 2 times that I am thinking of this, particularly the impact that it would have on trans youth. I think especially I'm attuned to it post J.K. Rowling, where obviously Tamora Pierce, like 20 years later, is like, absolutely not J.K. Rowling. We believe people are the gender they say they are. Trans women are women and belong in women's spaces. Like, Tamora Pierce's feminism has obviously changed with the times, but this is just horrible. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to point that out. It's something that I struggle with on the reread, and I'm curious, because I've read this twice, but I haven't touched the rest of the series. I'm curious how this goes and if there's anything else that doesn't sit quite as well in 2021. So I just finished Alanna First Adventure, and there's a lot to unpack in specifically the last chapter of this book, in which we learn that Tortall is a colonizing nation. They have colonized the tribal culture, the Bajir. The Bajir seem to be modeled after medieval, like a medieval Middle Eastern culture. Their city, Persepolis, is one letter away from Persepolis. Very, very thinly veiled. And we have this rumor of the Night One and the Burning Brightly One, which Alanna and John fit. And so there's this white savior narrative built into the text. There are also some moments in here where they talk about how the king worked treaties with some of the Bajir tribes and slaughtered a few others. They won't accept roles as a king, and they make life difficult for those who use the southern road, as they should. Idle no more, not gonna sit idle and bow down to their oppressors, right? So here we have it in the text that Rold, Jonathan's father, is part of this colonizing force that slaughtered indigenous tribes people, specifically the indigenous tribes people who wouldn't agree to the treaties of the colonizer. There's a lot that we can unpack there, maybe more than I can do. I think I'm gonna noodle on this and then come back. I'll see you tomorrow. Hi friends, welcome to December 2021. I said I was gonna noodle on it, and I definitely noodled on it. I decided to release this video alongside a recent reading vlog where I tackle the whole Lioness series to try and get out of a reading slump. This video, in terms of like detailed reading of the text, a pulling up of quotations, supporting the statements that I make with textual proof, is not what's happening in that vlog. It is something that I wanted to point out exists, and you can see me noodle on a lot of the themes that I struggled with in this text. The plan for this video that I started in May was to, in the style of Lumos, do a casual reading vlog where I point out things as I'm reading, and then do a follow-up lesson where it's much more scripted, much more researched. You would get that afterwards as sort of a more academic, backed up discussion of what I had touched on in the vlog. Obviously, that didn't happen because it's been, what, 7 months since I filmed the first vlog. However, doing the recent reading vlog for the whole series has me excited about this idea again. This may not be a satisfying conclusion to this video, but I didn't think it was worth it to throw away this footage entirely, because in watching it back now to steal a couple clips for the reading vlog, I had made some interesting observations. Like, that's what I want to do with this series, is start thinking critically about what is happening in this world that Tamora Pierce is building. Hopefully this gives you a sense of what I want to work on in 2022, throughout 2022. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you to my patrons for making videos like this possible. Patrons tip me and allow me to produce this content that you can watch on YouTube for free. There are updates coming to Patreon in 2022, so there will be videos talking about that, what we're going to do a little bit differently next year. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you are doing well, that you are staying safe, and I will see you soon. Bye!